Hey guys, OGalbina here, and today I have a really different kind of video for you today, but I'm really excited to bring it to you guys nonetheless. I recently participated in a draft tournament, but it wasn't any old draft league tournament. It was run by my buddy Kaz. I know he's a big old gen aficionado. He loves old gen Pokemon and things like that. And it was run by him. He said, hey, why not play? He plugged in goons and stuff like that. So, I figured it might be a fun change of pace because this draft league tour was RSC ADV. I don't know which is the correct acronym, to be completely honest, but it was a Gen 3 draft league. So using Gen 3 mechanics, only up to Gen 3 Pokemon. Gen 3, basically as if we went back in time and invented Draft League in Generation 3. That's what this tour was. This is the second one. It's called the Emerald Open. I had a ton of fun playing in it. It was a great change of pace, and I had so much fun learning about this new metagame as I kind of played along with it that I thought I should bring it to you guys and bring a little bit more light to it. So I really enjoyed it. Big shouts to Kaz and all his admins and stuff like that. They ran the tour really well. I had no qualms with the tour. So I think I'll link the Emerald Open, Discord server in the description below, and I'll link Kaz in the description below as well. So I'm glad he told me, like, hey, maybe you should sign up for this. He didn't recruit me. That's not what I mean. He plugged in goons, like, why not try? And I was like, hey, sure. And I really enjoyed it. So enough rambling. We're gonna jump in. I'm gonna talk about my team first, and I want to talk about a couple quick mechanic changes. And I also want to actually lead this with a disclaimer. I'm sure by my intro and as you saw, I'm sure by my intro and as you just saw, I'm not a Gen 3 aficionado. I'm not the Gen 3 GOAT. I actually have played maybe like 15 games on the ladder before this. So I understand general concepts and different mechanic changes that happen, and I love to watch old gen content on YouTube. I love BKC and stuff like that. So I don't know the most. So if you're a Smogon guy, you're coming over and you're watching this video because it got recommended for you for some reason, don't yell at me too much. I was just learning the format, and I had a lot of fun playing it, and I think I did pretty well concerning my very limited scope of knowledge. And I really think it's cool that old gens have such a big community and have so much pull in them. So yeah, with that being said, I want to talk about a couple big mechanic changes, at least as important ones that pertain to draft. There are a bunch of smaller ones like sand and lefties, I believe, happening at the beginning of a turn, like after the next turn. I think is that how it's worded. I don't know, even though it didn't come up in my bracket, but or anything like super notable. But I want to first talk about the biggest one, the physical special split. Gen 4 was the generation where they kind of started classifying moves as physical or special based on like the quality of the moves. Like Flare Blitz sounds like a physical move. I don't know, you're blitzing, you're throwing your body into the other Pokemon with fire. Flare Blitz. Well, Flamethrower, it's a special attack because it's something that you're conjuring up and summoning an attack going forward. In this gen and gens prior, it was determined based on typing. So the way I remember it personally is the EV typings plus Dragon are all special. So Fire, Water, Grass, Electric, Dark, Psychic, and Dragon, I believe. I don't think I'm missing any of them. Are all special, and the rest of them, they're all physical. So that makes some Pokemon much better. It makes some Pokemon much worse. It means we'll have physical hidden powers. It means we'll have special Thunder Punches. So it's just something interesting to keep in mind when you see these weird move pools on Pokemon, potentially weird EVs. I don't think I'll show my EVs in this game video, but that's just something to keep in mind. Is I'm not forgetting what physical and special moves are, and I'm not running Hidden Power Flying Salamence just to run it. You know what I mean? So that's the big one. Another big thing I wanted to kind of mention, it's not even really a mechanic change. It's going to be like the lack of items and the lack of like deep move pools. In Gen 4 in particular, at least in my mind, it feels like competitive Pokemon was really able to like open up a lot, or I don't even know if it's the right word. Well, regardless, I think there was just a really big lack of a ton of moves, particularly good, strong, high base power moves. It feels like a lot of these Pokemon move pools, especially with my privileged Gen 8 playing as, they suck. I don't know, they're just not very good. So very shallow move pools, as well as the lack of items. There is a choice item, one single choice item. There's a choice band. There's leftovers. You're gonna see some Lumberries. You're gonna see some Salic berries and Lychee berries in this format. You're going to see maybe some type boosting items, but even then they only do 1.1 times boost in this gen, and not the 1.2 that they are in later gens. I believe it's 1.2. I don't know. Regardless, it's not very strong, which is something to keep in mind. And you're going to see bans and things like that. So you're really not going to see much diversity in items and things like that as well, because there really isn't that many that you can viably run. So I think that's something else important to note. And another is, I just want to kind of mention this, my favorite one, is that Explosion was like a fucking monster nuke in gens prior to 5, I think. Where not only is it base 250 power, it also half the target's defense, like making it like basically a 500 base power move. So even on, physically defensive, normal resist, banded booms are like an instant KO almost in this tier. I think like banded Metagross, like Oko's Skarmory with a banded explosion. So obviously you're giving up your Pokemon for that, but it can potentially be like a 1-for-1 trade, which I think is a really interesting aspect of it. Oh, and another thing, which we'll kind of see in the first couple games, is the Pokemon that you have in your first slot is your lead. This is a generation where there is no team preview. So whatever you have first in your team builder is what is going to be sent out first in the battle. So there's a bunch of little stuff, and I'm sure there'll be stuff throughout the video that I totally forgot to mention here that we'll see. But yeah, that being said, let's jump into it. I have my team on screen right now in the Salamence, Starmie, Blaziken, Reggie Steele, Nidoking, Omastar, Tangela, Mighty. And I'll go through them all really quick. Salamence, I believe I had 3rd pick overall. It's a great Pokemon in the tier. It's my favorite Pokemon of all time too, so I'm like super happy that I got to try it. I was debating between this and Metagross, which are my top 2 actually. You can tell that Gen 3 was my first game, but Salamence and Metagross are my 2 favorite Pokemon ever, and I ended up going Ment. Great Pokemon. It gets Intimidate. There are no Stealth Rocks this generation, only Spikes, so having a top tier Pokemon that's just immune to Spikes is really, really valuable. Intim is a great pivot. It can Wish Up, which is actually incredibly valuable this gen, where Roost actually doesn't exist, so Wish is its form of recovery. DD sets are great. It can run Hidden Power Flying for its physical stab and really break through a lot of teams with that, plus like Rock Slide, Earthquake, Brick Break, things like that. It can go mixed or special. It can toxic things. It's a really versatile Pokemon, I think, especially in a draft format. And I'm hoping its versatility really, shines in this format. I also want to grab Starmie because 1, it gives me a spinner. 2, it gives me a good ice resist for my Salamence as well. And 3, it gives me a really good speed tier, which is, I think, hard to come by in like ADV or something like this in a draft setting where I can't just shoehorn a Starmie or a Jolteon or a Raikou on any team. I have to draft one of them. So I drafted Starmie because I think it really fits super well with Mence, to be completely honest. And Mence is going to switch in and resist those potential like grass type moves coming out of Starmie and things like that. They do share neutrality and weakness, I guess. Like, they're both kind of weak to electric mons, and you'll see kind of like a trend is I really get fucked up by Raikou and Jolteon. But, I think we can play around it. I also got Blaziken, a really cool mon, mixed wall breaker extraordinaire, because its fighting is going to be physical, its flamethrower is going to be special, its thunder punches are even going to be special. Really good with like Endure Shallak Berry sets, which I ran a lot with like reversal and things like that. Provided we're not playing T-Tars and there's only a certain amount of T-Tars, this Pokemon can go really crazy when it's low on HP. I grabbed Reggie Steele as another Steel Resist. It grabbed me just a really nice solid defensive centerpiece, something that can kind of switch in, protect up, be a general nuisance alongside things like Starmie. I'm a big ground weak right now, but I do have the Mence at least to pivot into those, which is great. Nidoking, next up, doesn't have Sheer Force like it does in other gens, but that Sludge Bomb and that Earthquake are both physical, which I think is a really cool option for us as well. Choice Band Nidoking is really hard to switch into in this tier in my mind, at least from my outlook, like in looking. It also has great special coverage still in Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, things like that. So we can go mixed, and it's just a big general nuisance. Poison Point's always an annoying ability as well, and it can function a little bit more defensively with a lower power level this gen, in my opinion. I grabbed Omastar next because I think Omastar, or like a Spiker, is really important this year, at least from what I was hearing and the little bit of research that I did. Having spikes in some way, shape, and form is important, and that's what we have here. It gives me another Flying Resist, which I think is nice, and that's another thing Reggie Steele offered, I guess. And it gives me spikes. It also gives me a Swift Swim Sweeper, as well as something against opposing rain options. Having my own rain mon can be, maybe somewhat deterring of other like manual rain teams. There's no Drizzle mons other than Kyogre, but manual rain, at the very least, is looking really scary for me because my water is just a Starmie, and that's a little bit scary, but we have double water now. Next up, my next 2, I won't lie to you guys, they quite literally never came this entire tour. So those top 6, those are our boys this tour. I grabbed Tangela because at least in prep it gave me a ground resist, and I didn't have one of those up to this point. So that was the Pokemon I could see myself bringing most likely. The Mightyena was just like leftover 2, 3, 4 points, something like that. There was nothing better. I wanted to grab a dark type in case there was like some really, really scary psychic types, but didn't end up really facing any that warranted me bringing Mightyena at the very least. So this is a bit long-winded. It was like 9.5 minutes. I totally probably forgot a million things. Again, if there's any like ADV heads in here, be nice to me. We're learning. Alright, but I had fun. I'm really excited to show you guys this run, so I'll be right back with our first game. Alrighty, game one, we're going up against Jake, who is a very solid draft player. I'm not sure his ADV experience. I'm really not sure too many people in here's ADV experience, either that they play draft and they want to try this tournament, or they're big ADV guys and they think the draft tour is cool. Regardless, I know of Jake, and I know he's a very solid player, with a very, solid background and stuff like that in the format. So we definitely have our work cut out for us this game. I'm going to kind of go through these games pretty slow and kind of explain my sets and maybe pause a little bit as we go. So being that there's no team preview, I don't want to tell you. I think it's a little bit less immersive if I just tell you everything I have and it doesn't show them. I think it's a bit more interesting if we kind of jump into them as they go. At least me personally, and I don't have my builds for these first couple games because I don't know if you guys are viewers of the channel, you know that I lost all my teams like a month or two back, and some of these games for some of them obviously because this tour this game happened March 7th. So yeah, it's been about a month. But yeah, that being said, let's jump into it. So you're gonna see the first instance of me not being an experienced ADV player and me leading my Salamence. Now, that's not to say Salamence is a bad lead per se, but in this game in particular, I am a DD Salamence. I'm DD, Hidden Power Flying, Brick Break, and Earthquake. And this is my win con. This is my way of winning the game, and I need to ship things down, obviously. I can't lead and win them with this Pokemon, especially considering Jake has some really big scary threats like Snorlax, Nidoqueen, which I don't OHKO, different things like that, to where I don't want to lead this thing and immediately start off, but we're at least able to Intim this Umbreon. Not that it's going to be throwing off many physical moves versus us, but I'm going to make the immediate pivot out because why let my Ments get crippled? It's my way of winning this game. I did reveal that I brought Ments, but I was bringing Ments anyways, and I'm going to go right into Reggie Steele, and what this at least does is at least shows me this Umbreon has Hidden Power Ice. Now, I believe with my spread that I had this game, I calced it, and it actually did not 2-hit KO me after lefties. I don't remember if you're lefties or not, but regardless, it did not 2-hit KO me. But regardless, it's nice to know later on if I am low, and I think I can set up on this thing's face because it's passive and, on the weaker side. And what this does is this allows my Reggie Steele to get off a very, very free Toxic. There's not really a good switch into this thing, Toxic-wise. I believe I was Seismic Toss, Earthquake, Toxic, Protect on this set. And I threw off a Toxic immediately. If he's gonna let me Toxic this thing, it's phenomenal for me. And if not, oh well, not that big of a deal. So we're gonna see the Snorlax come out next. It is going to get that -1 attack though, which is something, very, very important to note. As I am going to make the hard play out of my Nidoking though, because I know I'm not going to be knocked out or 2-hit KO by anything this thing has, especially at -1 because I'm decently bulky. And 2 is I can put on a lot of immediate offensive pressure with my Nidoking. I'm choice banned in this game because my opponent does not have a flying immunity, and the flying resist. He might have flying immunity, I don't remember. But I know that ground. I know that the ground resist does not exist though. It's a Roselia, which cannot have Eviolite this gen. It's not super bulky physically. It just dies to an Earthquake. So me getting in my Nidoking is almost essentially a KO or a 2-hit KO on something, especially with like a Toxic on this physically defensive Umbreon. It's gonna put me in a good spot. And it's not like Umbreon can really threaten me. It's honestly incredibly passive. It can charm me down and things like that. But now that it's Toxic, it's really not that big of a threat in all honesty. So I catch him going Nidoqueen right here. I'm trying to think of what in particular he was expecting. He might have been expecting me to go hard Blaziken. He might have been expecting me to, I don't know, maybe he just wanted to get in his Nidoqueen without any attack drop so that he could actually 2-hit KO the Reggie Steele, because I don't think he would have otherwise. It's not that strong. Who knows? Or he was also maybe trying to get in for free on a Toxic, as I try and Toxic the Lax or something like that. But there's no reason for me to do so, at least right now. But this allows me a free Earthquake on this Lax, and right here we're going to do 47, showing one, that this thing is incredibly physically defensive. The fact that I didn't 2-hit KO this Pokemon on the switch him with my banded Nidoking shows me it's very, very physically defensive. And 2, I don't see leftovers here. You're going to see right here. I'm going to go ahead and click Earthquake again because I really feel like since he did not show, leftovers, he's like a Lum or like Chesto Berry variant. There's really no other item for him to run in a matchup like this, and he's going to want to get this thing healthy, and I'm completely fine just throwing off an Earthquake and trying to get off some damage. Even baiting a crit could be completely fine, because once this thing's weakened or low, my Ments is great. And the more I force damage on this thing too, the more times it's forced to rest. And after this Chesto Berry, or if he's Rest Talk, it's another option too, is he has to get good Rest Talk rolls. But, or if he's Chesto, I get him to pop that now, and if he's Rest 3 attacks, he's in a terrible position against my Ments if I get an in for free on it. So He is going to show the rest, so I am correct in that vein, which is nice. And the Chesto Berry is Aiden. I'm going to pivot right into my Reggie Steele. I can chew up an Earthquake if that's what he wants to end up going for. And this turn, I believe I just throw off a Seismic Tosses. This thing is going to get a slow Baton Pass out, but again, it's getting pretty chipped down, so I'll take it. Next turn, I am going to Protect, and you're going to see I'm going to get punished right here on the substitute from the Nidoqueen. I don't think I should have made this play. I think I should have always made the hard Starmie play. I feel like this is an incredibly passive play to scout and see what he wants to go for. Unless I'm scared of like a Shadow Ball, like a physical Shadow Ball. Even then, my Starmie doesn't die from full from it unless it's like banded. Even then it might not, because I still am a Starmie, and this play didn't make much sense. It was incredibly passive, and I probably shouldn't have made it, to be completely honest. But you can get behind a sub. Regardless, we're gonna get into our Starmie, and you're gonna see we're gonna take what, 52 from that Earthquake, which is a ridiculous amount of damage. I'm gonna break this thing sub. Thankfully, we don't get like high rolled, or you know, that 54 roll. I don't even know if it was a high roll, to be completely honest. I'm gonna break this thing sub. Another cool thing to note that I didn't talk about in the like the team breakdown aspect of this video is that Recover actually is 32 PP, which is really demonic on Pokemon like Starmie. It allows us to PP stall a lot of things a little bit easier, or you know, just PP stall different moves that are doing damage to us a lot easier. So this next turn, I am just gonna throw off a Recover. I don't think he's gonna sack off his Nidoqueen or take damage on it when he has a Snorlax. And this next turn, I am going to make a pivot out into Blaziken. I don't think an Earthquake is coming out here, as we are going to see a big return right here. It's going to do about 60%. And honestly, that's completely fine, because he used that damage and did that damage to me instead of like going for like a Body Slam or something like that. I'm going to be able to sub here, and I'm a sub Salic Blaziken. I'm sub Reversal Thunder Punch Flamethrower, and that is a special Thunder Punch, and I EV'd to 2-hit KO and a max HP Starmie. So because of this, and because of the damage we took, we're going to get our Salic Berry be at +1 and be able to raw 2-hit KO this Starmie right here, provided we get similar rolls. And regardless of which, this is great for my Salamence, because again, this is probably a really bulky Starmie that could always take a +1 hit from Ents. We're slowly chipping things down, including this Nidoqueen, as it takes a Blaze Boosted Flamethrower. And we're, again, slowly chipping things down, putting them in range of our Salamence. As I'm right here, I'm just going to throw off an Earthquake. We're going to see the Roselia sack right here. Like I said, it just dies 100%. And then Big Lax is going to come out. And I'm just going to click Earthquake a couple more times. So we see an Ice Beam come out, and we see a Freeze. And this really, really, really sucked, because I believe my my Nidoking on its own could have just like raw won the game here soon, which is unfortunate. But we still have outs. The game is not lost. We're gonna see an Earthquake come out here. I believe we might have died to that, but regardless, I'm gonna throw off a big Seismic Toss here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to chip down this Lax into a range and where it's forced to rest up or it's going to die. So right here, we're going to take another Earthquake, and I'm going to pivot Salamence now, because I don't think he's going to Ice Beam on my Reggie Steele. I think he's going to Earthquake, if anything, or rest up. As we see, it's Rest, Return, Ice Beam, Earthquake. And if it rests up, those are free turns. It is not shown Sleep Talk. There's no way it can be Sleep Talk, and we can DD up and honestly just win the game at this point. As we are going to see a big rest here from the Lax. And again, very free Dragon Dances. We're going to Dragon Dance up this turn. Again, our lead DD WinCon Mence is going to throw off a big Brick Break, showing that's a very physically defensive Umbreon, as we are going to see the In-Power Ice do like 43, which is crazy. Earthquake's going to pick it off, and from here, he has a Blaziken as well, and he can endure all he wants, but because I always cut Blaziken just in case it was a set like this, he's not going to be able to speed me even with the Salic Berry, and we're going to knock him out. And then last two members are just going to get 2-hit KO'd or O-Code. Unless Lax gets 2-hit KO'd, taking 59, we knock it out with another Brick Break, and then the Nidoqueen's going to come out and get Earthquake. So there were some definitely pretty passive plays for me. Like, I think that Reggie Steele play was very, very bad. And I could have gotten punished if I got crit on my Starmie because of it. But you live and you learn. We were able to pull out the game, even though we led our WinCon as well, which is cool. And yeah, that's our game one. I'll be right back with our second game of pools. Alright, game 2 of pools. I want to say it's against Brother Quang. I want to say it's his Showdown name, or his Discord name. Don't know too much about the dude. I feel like I've heard the name before in my life, but we definitely have an interesting matchup here. I know he has some big threats like Swampert, some really annoying defensive pieces. So we had a much more balanced and defensive type build this game. He has like Arcanine, which is another, annoying Intim pivot, as well as Hitmontop. I don't know if Hitmontop gets Intimidation. I totally forget. I guess we'll see when we watch the game. But regardless, I remember everything but that. That's really embarrassing, ain't it? But regardless, let's jump into it. We're gonna lead off with our Mence. Now, this time again, I won't lie, this wasn't the lead that I wanted. but it ended up kind of working out. We're a pretty bulky Mence here. I think we're actually like 3 attacks protect special Mence with like Dragon Claw, Hydro Pump, and Hidden Power Grass. And I EV'd to pretty much always live an Ice Beam from like a non-offensive pert, and will honestly almost nuke an offensive pert if he is that with a Hidden Power Grass. So I'm actually pretty comfortable in staying in. I don't feel like I need Salamence in this game, and getting a guaranteed damage off on this Swampert is really going to take a lot of pressure on the rest of my team, to really break through this thing and, you know, keep it from being an absolute nuisance. So I'm going to stay in and actually Hidden Power Grass this turn, as we do 68%, showing it's pretty darn bulky, as this Ice Beam is going to come out. It's not going to knock us out here, and this next turn, we're going to both show lefties. He's going to pivot Arcanine. I was so close to making that middle ground play of Hydro Pumping, but I don't think it killed Spadef Swampert from that range, so I was a little scared he would stay, and I don't know the player, so I didn't want to make such an aggressive play earlier on in the game and kind of lose my Salamence for no reason, because I can use it as an Intim pivot, and between Protect, I can actually keep this thing, get this thing pretty healthy, being that rocks just don't exist this gen, which is great. We're not playing against any sand or anything like that. So this next turn, I am going to get Intim right here, as we do throw off another Hidden Power Grass, and this turn right here, I do expect either an HP Ice or an Extreme Speed to come out from this Arcanine to pick me off. There aren't really any other moves it can use to threaten me. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pivot into my Omastar right here, as this Arcanine does show leftovers, which is great. We do see the E-Speed, and based on this damage, I believe we always lived a Hidden Power Grass from here. So I feel very comfortable just throwing off a Surf. If he wants to pivot around this, it's fine. We're Surf, HP Grass, Spikes, and I forget the 4th move, but regardless, we're able to throw off a big Surf here, and it's pretty much uncontested against his team. And I believe Ice Beam actually might have been it for a Cradily in the back. So we're going to see HP Grass here. We are going to chew that up, only take 89, and just raw knock out this Arcanine with like a very modest offensive Surf here from our Omastar. As Starmie is going to come out here. That's why I didn't bother setting up like any spikes or anything like that, because Starmie spins really freely on my entire team, and it's actually really good versus me offensively, so like just letting in for free to spin. I guess spin wouldn't be the worst thing, because then I could pivot around a little bit easier. But Reggie Steele's going to come out here. We're going to see an Ice Beam come out, do 6%, which is fine. We heal that right off. We are max Spadef. Now I'm just going to throw off a Toxic right here. Now, I know obviously that Hitmontop the Starmie can nat cure that off, but being that Scald doesn't exist this gen, there's not really much that Starmie can do to threaten my Reggie Steele or beat it down. I can Toxic it and force it out, and, you know, eventually force a Toxic on something else and just be a general nuisance. You're going to see Reggie Steele just puts in so much work this game and this entire tour. I really like this one in ADV. It's a little bit passive in some instances, but it's really solid. It's really hard for a lot of teams to kill. So you are going to see Hitmontop come out, and we do see the Intimidate, so it is Intim, which blocked with our Clear Body. I'm going to go pretty free Starmie right here. Nothing this thing can really threaten me, especially because I don't expect it to be banded in this matchup. I can go into my Starmie right here. I just thought of a big Hydro Pump. I didn't expect him to want to stay in, but I knew he wasn't like banded or like, you know, anything that could really OHKO me from that range, even with like a super effective Hidden Power. And from here, I'm just going to kind of spam, what do you call it? Recover into, I believe, a Thunderbolt right here, because Thunderbolt will catch an opposing Starmie, as well as knock this one out. So, or knock this Hitmontop out. So down it goes. We're going to see a Cradily come out. We're going to get a little lefties and go right back out into our Reggie Steele. I could have taken a Leech Seed there, but I still threaten with a Toxic onto something, even if the Pert wants to come in. We're going to see Starmie come in, but that's, again, completely fine, because this is my check. Being that he sacked his Arcanine in his Hitmontop so early, he really does not have good counterplay to this Reggie Steele. I'm going to throw off a big Thunderbolt here, so I still did have a way of hitting this thing, outside of Toxic, obviously, which is obviously very important, on top of being able to force it out with the Nat Cure and the Toxic and things like that. So I throw off a big Thunderbolt right here as it goes down to 5%, and there's no way this thing can recover it off. I'm going to go ahead and click Protect here. Maybe I should have clicked Thunderbolt or Toxic even, trying to catch like a Pert or maybe Cradily if it wants to pivot in for some reason. But realistically, it's not that big of a deal, as Swampert's going to come out here on my Thunderbolt. Completely fine. This thing's going to get a little bit of lefties back, which is annoying. But I'm going to go Mence here and pivot in on an Earthquake. I don't think he's going to Ice Beam me right here. And I get, again, more leftovers back for my Mence, which is really phenomenal. As he's going to Protect right here, but again, more leftovers for me, and he is still in range of this hit. Now, he can pivot out, Protect, and then be out of range again, but regardless, it's nice for me. I am going to Dragon Claw, because I don't think he's going to let this thing go down. We're not going to do too much to the Cradily, but it's better than nothing. So maybe Hidden Power Grass would have been a little bit better. But we just get a free Reggie Steele again. I just get a free Toxic. There's nothing that this team can really do to super punish my Reggie Steele. And right here, the Starmie does end up coming out. It's going to take a little bit of Toxic right here. Throw off a big Recover, as I believe I throw off a Toxic. I'm trying to catch that Pert pivoting in. Again, it's completely fine, because this thing can't threaten me whatsoever. The Surfs absolutely bouncing, I'm going to throw off a Toxic again because I really don't think he's going to stay in because it just isn't very advantageous for him at this point. As we do catch the Swampert, which is really clutch because we at least mitigate the leftovers that it's getting back this turn. And I'm going to protect right here as I believe an Ice Beam comes out, trying to catch my Mence, which is completely fine. We're at 42. So again, like I said, we took that, 90% turn 1? We're almost back up to half at this point, which is great. One more turn of leftovers and we're back there. So he's going to take another turn of Toxic right here. And I'm going to pivot Omastar actually because... one, this covers him Earthquaking. If he Earthquakes, I sack off my Omastar. I don't really need it the rest of this game. We go down here, and then I get a free switch into Mence, a free switch into, Starmie, a bunch of different things that I can use to threaten and beat down this Swampert. Or he goes for another Ice Beam, trying to catch my Mence. I live that, and I can throw off a big Hidden Power Grass here and do a ton of damage. Knock out this Swampert or knock out something else. It's right here, the Ice Beam, or a Refresh is going to come off, which isn't something that I necessarily expected, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, as I am just going to throw off a Hidden Power Grass and knock it out. So it refreshed really for not too much of a reason. Xatu is going to come out next. It's going to knock me out with a Psychic. I believe I just Ice Beamed. I didn't need to save this Pokemon at this point. It didn't beat anything left on my opponent's team, and I'd rather just get damage on this thing if he's going to allow me to. So I get out into my Starmie right here. This Cradilly is going to come out on my Thunderbolt, take about 10%. Thankfully, not get parried, because that would make it really annoying to beat down my Reggie Steele. But regardless, I'm going to make a pivot out into my Reggie Steele. We're going to see Starmie come out, and I believe I just throw off a Toxic here, so we see a Cosmic Power, but, or no, I throw off a Thunderbolt, but this is really all in vain. There's not much this thing can do to me. I believe I Toxic at this turn, because now I can put in a timer. He's eventually going to have to switch out, so it's not like he can really beat me 1v1, to be completely honest. We're going to see that happen immediately on the Xatu. I'm just going to Thunderbolt it, do about 37, which is nice. That's where I'm going to reveal he's going to reveal not to be leftovers and Substitute, which is a little bit scary because I don't know, I panic mode a little bit and I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Xatu's here, it's going to fuck me up. And we see a Calm Mind right here, and I believe my Thunderbolt actually does not break sub, which was really, really scary for me. He goes for another Calm Mind. I believe I just throw off another Thunderbolt. Do fade this up, and I go to Starmie here. In hindsight, not the best play in the world. I don't know, because I don't believe this thing gets Heat Wave this gen, so there really wasn't much he could do to hit me, but I also wanted to keep my Registeel healthy, but I'm going to end up going into my Xatu and just dying to a Psychic crit, which is really unfortunate because I just go right back onto my Registeel, and I'm still taking negligible damage from this thing. As I'm just going to kind of speed up as between Thunderbolts and, being able to break down this thing's sub, I'm going to knock it out, and I'm still going to be plenty healthy to take on this Starmie. Even after missing that first Toxic, from here, I can kind of just protect and alternate Toxics, Protects, and Thunderbolts. This Cradilly is going to come out. We're going to get a Toxic off, and I think my opponent realizes that there's no way of beating this Reggie Steele at this point, because he's going to forfeit, which is, completely fine. I don't think it was, like, made insult, or, like, he was like, fuck you. I think it was just, Reggie Steele won from there, and there wasn't really anything he could do about it. I could kind of just Toxic, Protect, and Thunderbolt over and over and over again, and I would be in an okay spot to win. And I still had 2 months completely unrevealed in my Nidoking and in my Blaziken. Blaziken was nice for, like, Cradilly. So was Nidoking with, like, Sludge Bomb. I forget our set in that game, to be completely honest. And then as long as we kept Registeel somewhat healthy for the Starmie, we were in a really good spot to win the game. And the moment Cradilly went down, the game was wrapped. We could just Seismic Toss on this thing and chip it down, save PP on Protect and Thunderbolt, which we still have plenty of, which is nice. And now we could save Toxic PP for the Starmie as well. So yeah, that is going to be our game 2 though, and I'll be right back with our last game of pools. Alrighty, so at this point we are already secured and, guaranteed to make it out of pools and go into brackets. But it'd be nice to have an IC, and it'd be cool to win 3-0 and go 3-0 my pool. So we're playing Sadly CS in this game, and I think this game is a really big kind of telltale show of my real lack of knowledge of this tier and how things work and how to play optimally and things like that. And it kind of blows up in my face a little bit, but we're gonna jump into it and kind of show it. Because I think this is a very, important game when it comes to the tour, as we are going to lead off with Hermence again. 100%, I'm not going to lie to you, I 100% forgot that I lead with the first mon on my team, and I always build my best mon first. At least I did during this tour a lot of the time. I think, the mon that I saw did, solid enough. I lead with it, and that's what we did with Mence here, which is really, really unfortunate because we are going to see a Cloyster lead. I am Hidden Power Grass on this set, however, I do not OHKO any Cloyster in any capacity, so we're going to have to pivot out here. There's no way we can stay in. We're going to get an Intim drop, which doesn't really matter because Ice is special this gen. We're going to go with Starmie, and thankfully we have a pretty good Cloyster check in Starmie. Now if he wants to boom, which we actually scout for right there by going into a Registeel, we will be in a pretty good spot, though I don't think he should ever really boom in that instance, just because he loses it immediately, which doesn't seem like, you know, a great thing for him, especially because it is, you know, his way of getting up spikes and really wearing down my team. So I do at least get into my Reggie Steele right here, and I do throw off a Toxic right here. And again, I know I forced out the Blissey, but the Blissey can't really do too much to me. As Gengar's going to come in, and I really struggled switching into Gengar, and really my best switch in was Reggie Steele, but I didn't really do enough research to kind of realize what Gengar does in a, you know, a tier like this and a gen like this, opposed to what it does now. The way I know Gengar now is it clicks Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, which are physical moves gen, obviously. But you know what I mean? Like, it clicks buttons, it's strong, it's offensive, and it's really hard to switch into. And that's kind of how I built for it. I didn't really build for, you know, like, fat demon Will-O-Wisp Gengar, but I know, like, and I've seen in videos before that this is what it does. And I'm only Ice Punch to hit this because I figured that was the best, like, you know, one coverage move for me to have. And I'm Ice Punch to hit this thing, but when I'm burned, I'm doing like 18%. It's basically healing back via lefties, and it's going to 1v1 me with me being burned. I'm not rest on that Reggie Steele set, so that's really, really unfortunate. I'm going to make a pivot out into Starmie to try and force this thing out, as Blissey is going to come out next. It's honestly fine. I'm going to make the pivot out into my Reggie Steele, cover for a Toxic and, you know, anything annoying that might want to come my way. As I believe I pivot back out into Starmie, expecting maybe a Gengar to come in, but realistically, there's not much I can do to this Blissey. I can Toxic it, but it doesn't really fear me that first turn. And now that I'm burned, I'm just getting chipped down by my own burn. So I can't really effectively 1v1 that Blissey very well. Because right here, I am just going to recover in the face of this Blissey, but it's almost out-damaging me. It's very easily out-damaging me at this point. So I am going to make a pivot out into my Blaziken, and then make a double out into my Salamence, expecting something like a Slowbro, or even a potential, most likely a potential Dugtrio, which is sitting in the back. As Slowbro's going to come out, and obviously not a great matchup for my Salamence. I believe I made the hard Starmie play, and then I pivot out into Reggie Steele to see what this thing wants to click. It clicks Hidden Power. I don't know what Hidden Power that was, to be completely honest. Maybe it was Hidden... I really don't know. It was neutral on Reggie Steele, and they clicked it on Starmie, so I really couldn't tell you, to be completely honest. But this next turn, I believe I do throw off a Toxic, trying to Toxic this bro. We're going to miss on the Blissey, but realistically, it's not that big of a deal for him, as I am just going to double Toxic here. So they do try and get a little bit aggressive and pivot in on my Reggie Steele with their Cloyster, but I'll definitely take it. Dougie's going to come out here. I'm going to make the pivot out into my Starmie, and being that this thing is faster, I'm too low, I get revenged by Dougie, and this is really, really bad. Now, spikes are here to stay if they end up going up, and my best way of pivoting into, like, Gengar, I guess, is kind of gone. I'm going to Wish Up right here and throw off a Dragon Claw. It's not great for me, but I really just don't have many great options other than this, and I didn't want to let my Blaziken get poisoned, or, what do you call it? Thunder Waved or anything like that. So I make the pivot into that. I make a double into my own star, expecting something like a Slowbro to come in. And I'm able to get up a Spike as it Calm Minds, and then Toxic it right here as Hidden Power is going to pop here against my own star. It's probably Hidden Power Electric. That's what it is. But we're going to be able to Hidden Power Grass this thing, do, you know, a decent amount of damage, and then go down to a Psychic. And this thing's going to be, you know, about 50-ish%. Yeah, 60-ish%, sorry. After that, right here, Cloyster's going to come out. I am just going to Seismic Toss, do a ton of this thing's health, realistically, and it's going to be pretty darn chipped down. The only unfortunate thing is that it spikes if it wants to get them up, or here to stay at this point. And again, there's not really much I can do to stop it. As right here, I believe I just throw off a big, what do you call it, Seismic Toss, in case you want to get up a Spike. I didn't want to Protect and let... I guess Protect was always my best play. I guess, see, there's just a lot of plays I didn't make that were great. Right here, Gengar's going to come out. It's going to Psychic, knock out Reggie Steele. And right here, I'm in a tough spot. I'm going to be able to go into my Nidoking right here. Psychic does potentially kill me from here. I believe I go for an Endure to try and get my Salac Berry to pop. They unfortunately switch right out, but I can go for the Endure this turn against the Slowbro, as a Psychic's going to come out. It's going to bring me down to 1 HP. And I'm going to get my Salac Berry right here, and actually be able to knock out this Slowbro with a Thunderbolt. We're Thunderbolt over Shadow Ball on that particular set, just because it can hit the Slowbro a little bit harder, though Shadow Ball would have allowed me to hit Gengar a little bit harder. So maybe we did have both. I don't completely remember. Regardless, this game's over, though, because King's just going to come in. It's going to absolutely munch on that Earthquake, and we're going to lose to it as it sets up a Rain Dance, and it just Ice Beams and Surfs through the rest of my team. Or Hydro Pump, I guess. But yeah, that's going to be our round 3 game, or I guess our 3rd game of brackets. We really got smashed there. There's not much else to kind of explain. We really got smashed. We didn't play well. We didn't prep well. And our lack of knowledge of the format kind of came through. But thankfully got all the kinks out, and hopefully we should be able to do good in brackets, which we'll be right back with. Alright, I actually think that this game was against Brother Quang. I could be completely tripping. Maybe I should have looked over, like, my schedule and my bracket before I started recording, but regardless, I know we played him. So whoever I'm like not mentioning that we played, thank you for the game. But I think this might be him. Regardless, we're playing our top 64 game, I believe, which is definitely really fun. We actually have a immense mirror match with against a Jolteon, which is really scary. As I mentioned earlier, fast electrics really bully this team with Thunderbolt plus HP Ice, because my ground isn't the bulkiest thing in the world, and obviously my immense gets rocked by the HP Ice as well, which is really scary. Starmie also gets rocked by Thunderbolt. So a lot of our team, that's, you know, a lot of the big parts of our team are really weak to electric. So regardless, I am actually going to not lead Salamence this time. I'm going to remember and lead off my Omastar. Unfortunately, Jolteon is lead, which is really unfortunate because I'm going to make the pivot into Nidoking. Trying to catch a Thunderbolt. My opponent makes a good play, though, and just goes for a sub-turn one because they realistically have no reason not to. And they're going to be able to throw off a big hidden power ice, as I am going to Sludge Bomb and break this thing sub. But I'm going to be kind of forced out right here, as I'm definitely 2-hit KO'd. And I feel pretty comfortable going Reggie Steele because even if they sub up, I'm realizing I probably should have made this play in general, because you're going to see this Thunderbolt does, what, 20%? In conjunction with Leftovers plus Protect, we almost essentially completely heal that off at the end of each turn. As right here, we are going to go for a Toxic. I didn't think this thing was going to stay in, and Machamp is going to come out, which is a little bit scary considering I gave this thing Guts, but I think I do have the tools to pivot around it. We're going to see a Cross Chop come out, and this thing is obviously Guts, but it's supposed to be Leftovers here. At this point, I believe I just go for a Psychic, do as much damage as humanly possible, as Grumpig is going to come out. But I got a free Reggie Steele again, and I feel like I can really whittle this team down. And again, while this Machamp is really scary, I actually like that it's Toxic, because if I can pivot around it correctly, it's wearing itself down very fast. We are going to see an Earthquake come out here from the Machamp. I believe I pivot out into my Mence, really trying to scout out for like a Hidden Power Ghost or something like that, because I would actually probably nuke it from full with this thing being what do you call it? Burn or poisoned. Is right here that it's gonna come out. I'm gonna go throw off a big Protect with my Salamence. See a Rock Slide come out here from this Machamp. And it's already down all the way at 50% here due to its poison chip. As I am gonna throw off a Wish. I knew I lived a -1 Guts Rock Slide from there. I'm gonna be able to pass out into my Starmie, which is really nice, and just get off a very free spin. These spikes won't be able to stay up versus me because the Spiker just does not beat me very well. Which is great. Jolteon's going to come in, unfortunately, and throw off a big Baton Pass as I go into my Reggie Steele. And I'm going to pivot right back onto Starmie because I'm not super worried about this thing, as Earthquake is going to do about 40, so decent amount of damage. And then Grumpig's going to come out the turn after on my HP Grass, which is unfortunate, but again, I have a very free Reggie Steele, and I feel very comfortable pivoting around these Pokemon. So, Fire Punch is going to come out. You're going to see that is a special Fire Punch from that Grumpig, and it does 18%, which almost heals me, it feels like, as I just able to throw off a very free Seismic Toss here on the Cloyster, which again, really nice. I'm going to elect to go for a Toxic this next turn on the Cloyster, because I know that if it wants to spike up, I'll be in a good spot, or if it wants to boom, my Reggie Steele can take that definitely, and then I'll pivot out into Starmie this next turn on another Spike, which is fine, and I'll be able to spin away these spikes and make sure that they're, again, off the field for the entirety of the game. Really nothing should take Spike's chip except my Starmie at this point, so Jolteon's going to come back out. I'm going to make a pivot out into Nidoking as we see a Baton Pass. I'm going to get a little bit of Leftovers back, but I'm kind of forced to stay in an Ice Beam here because I can't really allow this Mence to set up for free, as it is going to Earthquake and knock me out, unfortunately. And then we get a free Starmie, so I can just throw off, I believe, an Ice Beam. No, we're going to make a double out in Reggie Steele. Wow, there you go. Good double Owen. But this next turn, I believe I am going to throw off a Seismic Toss. We finally catch that Machamp coming in, which kind of we were trying to catch when the Cloyster came in earlier. And now this thing realistically has like 1 or 2 more turns after this next one right here, just because of the poison damage. What is it going to take? Yeah, it's going to take 18 this next turn, so that's obviously really nice. We're going to see a Cross Chop miss, which is really unfortunate for my opponent in the sense that now he gets nothing out of this Pokemon. He could have at least gotten a little bit of damage on Mence, but it wasn't going to kill me, obviously, as we're going to knock it out with the Dragon Claw, and Cloyster's going to come out next. I believe I pivot right out of my Starmie as my opponent makes a really aggressive play and booms, which I did not expect, because I realistically could have protected with my Salamence. I didn't want to because I didn't want them to spike and then boom, but regardless, we prevent spikes, and I don't need my Starmie. It realistically was here for Cloyster, so if he wants to boom on the Cloyster, not that big of a deal. It's right here. Swampert going to come out. I am going to just Seismic Toss this thing sub away. I'm going to make the pivot right on my Meds. Or an Earthquake, and then be able to live in Ice Beam, which we did EV for again, living on just 1. And be able to throw off a big HP Ices. I believe we just throw off another one right here. If he wants to stay in, he can stay in. If not, and, you know, it's completely fine, to be completely honest. Right here, we are going to see big Grumpig come in on our Hidden Power Grass. It's going to chew it up, absolutely chew it up, but we're going to be able to get in our Reggie Steele, who is at full health again, and just throw off a Toxic onto something, which is, again, really clutch for the rest of our team. As right here, we are going to see a Fire Punch do 17%. We're unfortunately going to miss our Toxic, but it's completely fine. All we need to do is hit our next Toxic, and we're still in a phenomenal position. Unfortunately, we miss it, though. It's fine, though. It's fine, though. We just have to hit one. We're going to protect here, get a little bit of lefties back. I'm convinced that this thing is not set up at this point. Or I think it would have tried to set up. No, because we have Toxic. But we're able to hit a third one, thankfully. We don't miss 3 in a row, which is really important. We're going to see the Salamence come out. Does it make a double out into my own Salamence, which really isn't, that big of a deal, as I am just going to throw off a big Dragon Claw on this Ment. Grumpig is going to come in, take a little bit of Dragon Claw chip and some poison. We're able to just protect up right here. I believe we're Dragon Claw, HP Grass, Wish, and Protect. So this thing actually does pretty decently this game. And I'm going to start off a big Wish here on the Swampert coming in. And I can just HP Grass this thing and, do a lot of damage, which is really nice. We're going to see an Earthquake come out here from the Swampert, which was not something that I necessarily expected. But now we're at full, and we live in Ice Beam. But thankfully we get a crit, which means we don't have to worry about getting frozen or crit or anything like that. Salamence is going to come out next. It's going to DD up, but because I'm such a bulky Ment, I shouldn't actually die to any +1 physical move from the Salamence. My Dragon Claw doesn't kill, but we live a Rock Slide unless we get crit. Which is a little bit unfortunate, I won't lie, but it's completely fine. I know that provided I don't get crit on my Omastar, which I don't think I can because I believe I'm Shell Armor on this set, I can throw off an Ice Beam, knock this thing out, and put myself in a pretty good position to win the game. I just surf with my Omastar here. It doesn't necessarily beat anything, and it gives me a free switch into my Reggie Steele, which is really important, as we are going to see myself Protect, as a Baton Pass is going to come out. As the Grumpig is going to come in, it's going to start throwing off big Fire Punches, essentially. As Fire Punch is going to come out, I believe I just throw off a Seismic Toss, and then I'm going to Protect this next turn into another Seismic Toss, which should knock out the opposing Grumpig right here. So we are going to see, the Protect, one more Seismic Toss, down it goes, which is great. Jolteon's going to come in next, and at this point, I want to ensure this thing doesn't have a sub. I'm just going to go ahead and spam Seismic Toss, and put myself in a good position, even if I don't completely 1v1 this thing, which I should, barring any crits. My Blaziken could always live one in the back, and we can knock it out then. But Reggie Steele clutching up as always, gonna knock out the Jolteon, get us a win, move us into top 32. So pretty cool to move on to the second round of brackets. Hopefully we can continue to do well. Alrighty, gang, we're here with, I believe this is top 16, I want to say, against the Sprinkler. He's a really scary team in like Rain plus Zapdos and Dougie. And Rain plus Dougie is really tough for me to deal with. Rain in general is really tough for me to deal with. Things like Kingdra, Ludicolo really do run through my team with just like stabs plus Ice Beam potentially. And then Dougie makes things like that much harder with things like Reggie Steele. He has a Medicham that's really scary as Zapdos. So it's honestly a matchup I wasn't super comfortable with. But we'll go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and, again, we're not going to kind of explain our team until, we kind of get through it. And we'll go nice and slow. We're going to lead off with Nidoking. This is actually an Endure Shallak Berry Nidoking. We are pretty bulky, though. I believe we are Sludge Bomb, Earthquake, and Rock Slide with Endure. Endure so that we don't get, immediately trapped by the Dugtrio. If it's like Banduggy, it comes and tries to revenge us. We can Endure, get down to our, 1 HP. And then, knock it out with an Earthquake from there, because Dougie is so frail, which is great. And the reason we're leading off with this is because we don't really deal with Zapdos very well otherwise. So we are going to lead off with it to ensure that we don't, lose that thing. Turn 1, it's going to go for a sub as I Rock Slide right here, where it's going to reveal to be leftovers as well. And being that it's showing sub, I'm going to start throwing off big Sludge Bombs, because I don't want to miss any Rock Slides and let this thing get up a sub for free, as this offensive Hidden Power Ice is going to do a ridiculous amount. But I get off another Sludge Bomb, and thankfully I'm actually able to get a Poison off in this next turn. Because I checked what I needed to on his team, I'm gonna go for an Endure right here to try and pop my Salak, as well as watch this thing go down here to Poison, which would again be great. But he is gonna go for a Baton Pass, which is a good play. This next turn I'm trapped. Realistically, my best play is to go for a double Endure, because he may think, I may just try and get an attack off. I already went for the Endure, so it's about a 50% chance for it to, pass, and he might just want to attack and revenge me, but I'm going to go for that 50% chance, and I'm actually going to get it, which is amazing, as you're going to see my Nidoking get down, get its Salak Berry, which is phenomenal, and I'm going to throw off a big Earthquake here. He reveals to be Endure himself, showing that he's not a band variant or anything like that, which is honestly fine, because while he may be able to revenge my Nidoking, this Dougie just really isn't that useful at this point. As as I am going to go into my Salamence. I believe I am a Dragon Claw special Salamence in this game. I throw off a Dragon Claw right here. I'm able to knock out the Zapdos, which is great. Ludi's going to come out next. I am going to Scout for that Ice Beam, pivot into it. I'm very, very Spreadef, and being that the Dougie's at 1%, it can't really come in hard on me. I am going to Toxic as this Medicham comes hard in, but it reveals to be Lumberry, which may indicate that it's like some kind of bulk upset or something like that, which is definitely very scary. I'll make the play into my Salamence and get the Intimidate drop on it to, you know, make sure that we're not, you know, taking a ton of damage on anything that wants to come in, or if it's like a band variant. As right here, we do take 53 from this Rock Slide. It's a good prediction for my opponent. And this next turn, I believe I actually do double into my Starmie. As I definitely don't think he throws for Shadow Ball here. -1 hits aren't going to be doing too much damage. I know he's not banded as well, which is good to know. As he is going to make a nice switch into his Ludicolo, though, and catch me there, as I am going to make the play right back out into Reggie Steele. I'm going to take a Hidden Power Grasp pretty darn freely, and I'm just going to throw off another Toxic, I believe, right on this Ludicolo, as the Surf does absolutely nothing, and knowing that this thing just can't beat me, I've shown Toxic. I don't think he's going to want to stay in and take like a Seismic Toss for no reason. I think he's going to try and get offensive initiative with his Medicham, because Medicham pushes a lot of progress. I'm actually going to go ahead and double Toxic right here and catch this Medicham. So after clicking Toxic twice, we're actually going to be able to keep it poisoned. This next turn, I do just go for a Protect as this thing Brick Breaks right here. I know I do live a Brick Break, and right here, I was honestly expecting like Shadow Ball to come out to catch my Starmie potentially. And do a ton of damage to that. Maybe he grabs a little bit of offensive initiative, get into his Dougie potentially and trap me if I don't, or go into his Ludi probably actually. He's not going to try and trap me with Dougie at that point, but probably get a little bit of offensive initiative into his thing. So I'm going to stay in and go for an Iron Defense, just because I'm not super worried about if this thing end up clicking Shadow Ball, the next subsequent Brick Breaks would actually be doing very, very little damage in conjunction with Protect. Right here, you're going to see I'm only going to take 32 from it. So if I did get that play right, that would have been great. I'm going to throw off a big Ice Punch here, and that plus Poison is going to be able to knock out this this Medicham. Unfortunately, we are going to lose our Reggie Steele here. We're still going to get trapped by the Dougie, unfortunately. But it happens. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to get into my Salamence and get a little bit of leftovers back here and just throw off a Dragon Claw, I believe. Do about 44% to this Whaler, which is amazing. Now, I know this guy is going to go, you know, for an Ice Beam potentially, right here. It does go for it. But I'm going to get a little bit of leftovers back. I don't believe I'm a Wish set on this Salamence, so the Protect and the leftovers recovery is going to be great. I'm going to make a pivot out into my Omastar, which I hadn't revealed yet, but I think he could infer that we were going to bring it, because he actually makes a really good play and goes for the Hidden Power Grass. It's really unfortunate because a Spike would have went a long way. It would have knocked out this Dougie. It would have been great in chipping down the Ludicolo for my Starmie. It would have been great for the eventual Kingdra in the back as well. So I definitely would have loved a Spike there, but it's not the end of the world. I'm going to be able to go out into my Starmie right here, as the Ludicolo is going to come hard out on a Psychic. Take a little bit of damage. So right now I'm a little bit on the back foot. I'm gonna make the pivot into my Blaziken, as I don't expect any kind of what do you call it to come out, any kind of water move, and I don't expect my Blaziken to be able to just raw win this game when rain does exist. So I am going to make the pivot out, and then I'm going to pivot out into my Salamence, realizing that this thing is going to be rest 3 attacks or be walled by my Salamence. So that's definitely really good to know. It's right here, the Wailord is going to double in. I believe I do just Protect right here, and then I'm going to make the pivot back out into my Starmie, and I'm going to be able to start throwing off some attacks and things like that. Psychic's going to come out and do about 27. As right here, I am going to make the pivot into my Blaziken. We see that this thing is not Sleep Talk, it is just Rest, so that's really, really good to know. As right here, I'm going to make the double back out into my Starmie, so I can get on this Wailord, and again, just start throwing off big hits. As I do Psychic, do 30%, and that does look to be a 3-hit KO, which is incredibly important, because while he can wake up right here, he is going to have to rest up and stay healthy, or he's going to have to just get damage off with the Hidden Power Grass, which that plus the addition of leftovers will keep me out of range of a Dugtrio, which is really, really nice. So we're going to knock out the Ludicolo right here. We're going to get a bit of little lefties back, as Dougie's going to try and come out. It's going to try and revenge us. No, sir. We're going to knock it out with a Psychic here. And Starmie's putting in a ton of work, as Kingdra's going to come out. This thing can't set up the rain, but we are a very, very bulky Starmie, so provided we recover up here, we can actually potentially just stall out rain turns pretty darn easily, as we do get our recover off. And thank God for 32 PP recover, as we're just going to kind of start spamming right here. Now, we are obviously playing with a crit, but I don't think my team can really do anything else otherwise, as Kingdra really just kind of 6-0s my entire build. As right here, I believe I do just throw off a Psychic, as I am at full. No, I recover one more time, and now that rain's ending, I throw off a Psychic here, because I know I'm going to be able to get off a ton of them. Or no, do I recover up? No, yeah, I just Psychic, which is nice. As right here, I believe he is going to Rain Dance up once again, but I get the recover off, and again, we're going to play that game where I kind of got to stall out these moves a little bit. Not the biggest deal in the world, but definitely not very very great for your boy. Because right here, he is going to throw off a big hit in power. I'm going to recover up. And then I believe we're going to see one more recover right here. And this is the instance in which I should have 100% psychic, right? Because my psychic was doing 40%. There's one turn of rain left, right? All I need to do is I need to psychic and I 2-hit KO this thing 100%, but I'm going to choke and I'm actually going to go for a recover, a little bit greedy, and I really can't tell you why I did this. I think it just might have been me not counting correctly, just not making the right play, to be completely honest, because I should have psychicked and I guaranteed won the game right there, because I would have 2-hit KO'd this thing, rain wouldn't have gotten up. I can always recover in this Wailord's face pretty darn easy, or just get a Toxic off on it and then beat it down with everything else on the build. So realistically, probably shouldn't have made that play, and I'm actually going to get punished for it right here as another Rain Dance does go up, and I'm going to get crit by the HP grass, which is unfortunate. Really, really tilting, as you can see me being super tilted in the chat, but I did choke. So I'm going to have to play around this a little bit, particularly. I'm going to go into my Salamence right here. You're going to see there is 2 turns of rain left. I'm going to sack off the Salamence. It's going to go down, and this next turn, I kind of have to win a 50-50 and get this Endure off. If he wants to Rain Dance again, I think he does potentially just, like, raw win the game. Yeah, because he'd be faster than me outside of rain too. But I am going to endure, as he does end up going for a surf, bringing me down to 1 HP. I proc my Salic Berry, and from here, I'm going to be able to reversal through the last 2 members. Luckily as well, he was like HP invested on Wailord, whereas if he was defense invested, he would have actually lived this hit. But regardless, it was my best play, and I'm able to knock it out and, you know, move on to, I believe... No, this was top 32, move on to top 16 upcoming here. So, yeah, that was our game versus the Sprinkler. I think I could have played it more tight, the end game wise. Early game, I don't think I played too bad. Maybe getting a little over aggressive with our Reggie Steele there. And obviously me just not counting right and not going for Psychic when I should have. And putting myself in a position where I realistically could have lost that game. It was a very high percentage that I was going to lose that game. But thankfully, we're able to pull through, and yeah, move on to top 16. I'll be right back with that game. All right, top 16, we're going up, I believe his name is Steve Dose in this game. He has a really scary team, things like Swampert, Moltres, which is really scary versus me offensively, Executor, so a fun little, you know, potential Sun Core right there. Tauros, which is a big monster versus me, and then things like Machamp and, you know, other big threats like that. So we have a pretty fun team. Let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to lead off with a Choice Band Nidoking, as I feel like it could exert a ton of pressure, his only ground resist being the Executor, and realistically any lead besides this Swampert would have been a pretty solid one for Nidoking. Unfortunately, he is going to lead with the Pert, so I'm going to pivot right out into my Starmie, as we're going to see a massive Earthquake come off here. What looks to be pretty darn offensive Swampert is this next one does 60% as I am just going to spam recover, trying to kind of PP stall these things out, as I definitely do, and I can actually have recovers to spare. And I really don't switch into this thing all too well, as it's going to reveal a substitute right here and showing me leftovers. So this next turn I am going to kind of be forced to throw off Big Surf, break that substitute, and then again kind of start dealing with this thing a little bit defensively. I realize I kind of don't want to get crit, and I want to at least minimize the amount of damage he's doing on non-crit moves. So I'm going to pivot into my Salamence right here on an expected Earthquake. I definitely didn't expect an Ice Beam or a Rock Slide right there. So I'm able to pretty freely get in there and then get into my Starmie on the Ice Beam. And from here, Earthquake's going to be doing significantly less damage right here, as I am going to throw off a big recover, and Earthquake's only going to do about 40. So at this point, I can recover these off a little bit easier. As Pinsir's going to come out next, I believe I Ice Beam expecting the Executor to want to pivot in. We still got a big chunk off on the Pinsir, and the reason I pivot Salamence here, opposed to just going for Surf and picking up a KO, as I really did expect this thing to be like Endure, Reversal, shenanigans and things like that, and potentially Flail, things like that. So I wanted to pivot into my Salamence because I knew if you wanted to go for Endure, my Salamence could 1 Intimidate, drop him, and kind of deal with him from there. We're a Protect, Rock Slide, Earthquake, Hidden Power Flying set, so we're actually physical meant in this game finally. And we're going to be able to force this thing out, as the Swampert's going to come in. Take actually a pretty decent chunk from the Hidden Power Flying, which is nice. I'm going to pivot right into my Omastar, as I expected an Ice Beam to come out. Unfortunately, he makes a good read and goes for Earthquake, expecting probably either that or Starmie to come in. Starmie would have raw died to an Earthquake, which is why I kind of wanted to make that middle ground play of Omastar, as I knew I lived one of these hits. And if he wants to stay and let me get a big Hidden Power Grass off on this thing, I'll definitely take it. As we get 72% off on it, I'm really crippling it and weakening it down, as I'm able to get into my Starmie right here. get a little bit of leftovers recovery, and then throw off a big Surf, as I don't expect him to make that Executor pivot, as I could just 2-hit KO with Ice Beam, especially because it turns out to be a pretty darn offensive one. I'm going to pivot onto my Reggie Steele. I know this thing can Sunny Day into Hidden Power Fire me, but I can actually take it on decently well enough still, as the Moltres is going to come out right here, and I throw off a big Toxic, and between Toxic and Protect, we're going to stall out this Moltres' Sun turns pretty darn easily, which is great. Flamethrower is going to come out, and I'm going to pivot right into my Ments. I don't expect a Hidden Power Ice right here. I expect either like a Flamethrower or potentially like a Solar Beam to catch my Starmie, make that middle ground, take like 45%, but thankfully, we're packing the Rock Slide. He probably stayed in one for Hidden Power Ice to try and punish me and knock me out if I got a little greedy, but we're able to knock it out, which is great. Now, Machamp's going to come in right here, right? And this is really, really scary because my Hidden Power Flying doesn't actually knock this thing out from full, even though we're almost max attack on our Salamence. We don't knock it out, and I'm really scared as to what this thing might want to click, whether it be Shadow Ball or it be Rock Slide to hit the Ments. My Starmie is really kind of taking a lot of damage at this point, and it's really my only kind of, it's a great pivot into Swampert, you know, just a mon I'm not willing to give up right now, especially because I can revenge this Machamp with it potentially. So I'm going to make the pivot into Nidoking because I really don't expect an Earthquake to come out. I expect either Rock Slide or Shadow Ball to come out to predict me. So you're going to see a Hidden Power, not Shadow Ball, Hidden Power Ghost. Sorry, I don't know why I was saying Shadow Ball. Hidden Power Ghost, which I believe that's what he did click right there. And that looks to be bandaged, so that would have nuked the shit out of my Starmie. So I'm glad I didn't make that play. We are going to throw off a big Earthquake right here. Do a good 65% with our Banded EQ. And then going to be able to go into my Ments right here and throw off a very uncontested Hidden Power Flying. Pick off this Swampert and put myself in a pretty solid position. As Tauros is going to come out. It's going to intimidate me right here. Now, I should have maybe protected Scout and see what this thing wanted to go for, but I didn't want it to, like, no, I guess Work Up isn't a move. Maybe Sub for free. If it's Sub for free, I was probably in a tough spot because I don't know if my, yeah, I think that might have been why. But regardless, I'm going to pivot to my Reggie Steele right here. As I know I take 2 Earthquakes if it's not banded, Add-a-Band. And I think Add-a-Band crit is the only way it killed me. Jolly was a roll significantly in my favor, so I guess it could have, but this kind of tips me off, and he does end up being an adamant banded Tauros, and I at least know he's banded because a crit non-band EQ would not have knocked us out from there. So I'm going to go into my Starmie right here. I'm just going to throw off a big Ice Beam. He doesn't go into the Executor, which is fine because it actually just gives me 2 turns of leftovers, which I think is incredibly valuable. This Executor is going to come out here, and I feel very comfortable just going for an Ice Beam right here, doing a clean 70% as the Sun is going to pop out, and now I'm going to kind of have to stall out these turns a little bit as I am going to pivot right into Blaziken. Take 54 from a Solar Beam, which is insane damage. I'm going to pivot right back out into Starmie, essentially sack it off. I don't know why he went for the Psychic, maybe expecting the Ments pivot, but even then I wouldn't have killed Ments. I think Solar Beam was probably the better play because he would have gotten more turns out of this, which would have been nice for him, but he's going to click Solar Beam right here, and then I'm going to go into my Salamence. I'm going to reveal Protect, which I had not shown up to this point, which is great. Avoid that Hidden Power Ice, showing that it could not hit my Reggie Steele, which is why it's unfortunate that I lost that to a crit. But we're going to be able to pick it off with a Hidden Power Flying. At this point, as close as this looks, this is actually a checkmate position because I'm going to throw off a Hidden Power Flying. This thing will 1v1 me. It got a crit right here, which really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But afterwards, I can go into my Blaziken. I'm going to endure Salac Berry set again. I endure. I get down to 1 HP. I get my Salac Berry. And then I'm going to be able to knock this thing out with Reversal. So a very, very close game in our last one. Pretty unfortunate in a couple instances there. But I think we were able to play around it. I think we actually played much better in this game than we did in the game against the Sprinkler, so I'm definitely happy with that one. But yeah, with that being said, I will be right back with our top 8 game. Alrighty guys, top 8, we're going up against Anti from my understanding, and things I heard, is a much more well-versed player in this format, and also probably a better player than me. But I definitely think we have the team to do it, and you know, I think I've been playing pretty well this tour and kind of figuring out the metagame as we go, so I think we can definitely do it with the team that we brought. We have a pretty interesting team. I took a lot of time building this one, and Kaz looked it over and helped me out with a specific set on it too, so big shout outs to him for that, and I'm pretty proud of this one. So first off, I believe we have a lead Nidoking. We'll kind of just jump into this. Anti's draft kind of going into this, as a note, is very, very fat, very, very annoying with things like Raikou, Skarmory, Hariyama. Sableye is a really, really good low point threat, and really, really annoying for me as a spin blocker. And then things like Miltank to keep the rest of his team not statused and, you know, have a good cleric. And then I believe he has a Tentacruel that he brings as well, which is pretty annoying as well because it's a great spinner versus my Spiker. It gets away spikes very easily on me. So These are all things just to keep in mind as we go and think about going into this game. I'm going to lead off with my Nidoking, specifically because I really struggle with Raikou. I don't deal with this Pokemon in the slightest. Switching into it defensively if it's like an offensive Calm Mind Raikou with Thunderbolt HP Ice. It just runs me. It runs my whole entire team. So I'm a very Spadef Nidoking. We're actually substitute Focus Punch, Earthquake, and Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt to hit that Skarmory, pepper it down. It doesn't have Reduce Generation because it's not a move, which is great because its only reliable recovery outside that is going to be Rest, and I don't believe it can Rest Sleep Talk off the damage that we're doing, which is awesome. So I am going to lead off with my Nidoking. I believe I click Substitute immediately. As Hariyama is going to come in. Now keep in mind I'm not max offensive on this Nidoking. I'm not max attack, but that crit does 52, showing that this is a very physically defensive Hariyama. Like incredibly physically defensive. So I'm going to make the pivot out right here. I don't want to take an Earthquake on my Nidoking. I'm going to go into my Mystic Water offensive Starmie. My Hydro Pump right here, and you're going to see Hydro Pump ends up being a little bit of a mistake because you're going to see a lot of Protect and a lot of pressure on Anti's team right here. And it's really going to force me to play very conservatively with the types of moves I click and things like that. You're going to see in prep there are a couple things I wish I did a little bit differently in this game. As right here, we're going to Psychic here with Starmie. Do a decent chunk to this Raikou, but kind of showing that it's like max Spadef Raikou. A really good answer to my Starmie. Now, I will be faster than it, but it's a really good answer to me. As right here, I'm going to go into my Nidoking. I know I'm actually not 2 KO'd, especially not by a very Spadef Raikou, as he showed in those calcs. As he makes the pivot into the Salamence, or into the Skarmory right here, which is fine with me, because I just thought of a big Thunderbolt. I do about 32, which is very little, considering showing that this is Spadef, but I get a Para into full Para, which you're going to see is really big. I actually get pretty fortunate here in these next couple turns, as I am just going to substitute and see what this thing wants to go for, as it does end up going and getting paralyzed right here, and I'm just going to start throwing off big Thunderbolts. That's 36% is going to go off right here. We're going to get Whirlwinded out into our Omastar. And this turn, what I should have done is I was HP Electric, pretty offensive on this thing, and now I know I'm not going to like 2-hit KO Tentacle on the switch in or anything, but if I HP Electric, I at least pepper this thing down and chip it down to where I can, you know, really punish if it wants to spin away later, or potentially catch it with a 2-hit KO, or catch it with an Oko after a couple catches of it switching in. And it obviously would hit Skarm as well. I don't think I should have spiked right here because I have no way of preventing this spin. So I really lost a lot of momentum this turn in particular, as right here I'm going to make the pivot out into my Starmie, as he does end up spinning away that spike. Which was actually pretty dangerous considering it was a Giga Drain offensive Tentacruel, but it's fine because he ended up spinning, which is great. Right here, he's going to pivot into the Raikou, go for an HP Ice on my Reggie Steele as a Protect come out, and you're going to see a Zap Cannon. This is a very interesting set. Going into this game, I was very scared of a Rest Talk Curse Body Slam Miltank. I felt like it could really push through my team, and I felt like I didn't have a lot of reliable ways of beating it. So Zap Cannon was one, a way to hit Skarmory for a lot of damage and pair it, but two, a way to punish that Miltank for trying to set up. And that in conjunction with counter is a great way of really, you know, potentially beating that thing 1v1 or putting myself in a position where I can try and beat it 1v1, which is nice. And then I also have Earthquake for this Raikou, and then Resto Chesto as well, which is nice. So we have a way of keeping healthy at least. But we are going to see a big Earthquake here. We're going to crit the Miltank, which means we do absolutely no damage otherwise. And I'll make the pivot into my Ments, where a Flamethrower, Earthquake, Wish, Toxic Ment. So very bulky, very annoying. I'm throwing Toxic off on this Miltank. If it's Rest Talk, it's Rest Talk, but I don't believe it is. As we did see a Heal Bell earlier, I'm just going to kind of try and waste off these Heal Bells and really make it get rid of them over the course of the game, because I think my best way of beating this team is wearing it down via Toxic. Because right here, I'm going to go on my Nidoking. I'm going to sub up, and this is kind of a crux of this moveset too. I really wish, and again, I know this thing has guts, but I still could pivot around it really well. I really wish I was Sludge Bomb instead of Focus Punch, because I'm never really finding an opportunity to Focus Punch that Miltank in this game, and Poisons in conjunction with Earthquakes is going to give me a lot more offensive pressure than I would have gotten otherwise, and I could have really thrown off a lot of Sludge Bombs right here, potentially baited a Poison on this thing and really either forced a lot more Heal Bells or crippled this thing and kept it really low. As I'm going to make the pivot into my Ments here, and then double into my Starmie on a Protect. It covered him wanting to switch out, as well as, you know, me getting in on a Protect to do a little bit of damage. I'm going to Hydro Pump right here, and you see I'm already down to 6 Hydro Pumps, which is not good in the slightest, because I click it right here, and now I'm down to 5. And now I have to start being really conservative with these Hydro Pumps. They go into my Nidoking, as we're going to see a Thunderbolt, and then an Earthquake is going to give this thing a little bit more health after Protect. And this next turn, I'm going to throw off an Earthquake. And again, if I had Sludge Bomb, I had this thing poisoned, this game might be a little bit different of a story because he hasn't gotten the opportunity to get in his Miltank yet, which is really nice for me. And yeah, it's definitely unfortunate right here, as I am going to recover up and then go out into my Reggie Steele here. And double into my Nidoking, I believe, on a protect from this thing, which definitely makes sense. But again, it's giving me a free switch in. It's giving me leftovers. Skarmory is going to come out next right here, which is completely fine with me, as I am going to sub up on a protect, a little bit more of a passive play. And I get a Thunderbolt and another Para, which is nuts. The fact this thing got heal balled off and then it gets it back is really, really nuts, to be honest. As right here, a Thunderbolt's going to come out. On this Skarm, I'm going to Thunderbolt again, and you're going to see I'm going to get a full pair here. So we're getting incredibly lucky with these Thunderbolt pairs, which is crazy because, like, in a Gen 8 format or any Gen that Nidoking has Sheer Force, you're not seeing it pair with T-Bolt, get poisons or anything like that. But it's just kind of the nature of ADV and the nature of Nidoking not having Sheer Force in this Gen. So we got to play it a little bit different. Right here, I realistically should have Focus Punched. As it covered really any play that my opponent wanted to go for. It covered a Hariyama coming in. It did just about as much as an Earthquake. And from there, I could 2-hit KO with Earthquake and put myself in a good spot. So this was a really passive and bad play. And looking back, I feel like if I did Focus Punch here, I would have been in a much better position. Or if I Earthquaked, but I think that, you know, requires me to be a little bit more ballsy than I might have wanted to. But right here, he is going to reveal the Protect. And even after, you know, throwing off these Earthquakes, I'm not going to have him in 2-hit KO range, unfortunately, as a Earthquake is going to come out right here. I'm going to spin right here. I probably should have thrown off a big Hydro Pump. And realistically, it's not that big of a deal. I feel pretty comfortable pivoting into the Sableye when I have my Salamence, as we are going to get knocked off here and lose our leftovers, but honestly, it's fine. I'm going to Toxic this thing as the Miltank is going to come out, and I believe probably just throw off another Heal Bell right here, as, no, it tries to Thunder Wave me, and then I'm going to go for a hard Focus Punch. Unfortunately, it's just going to go for a Seismic Toss, and it's going to make it to where I can't really break through this thing, unfortunately. I'm kind of attacking this thing in vain, as we do get a Poison Touch, which is nice, and then I throw off a big Earthquake and do what, 25, which is insanely low damage and really, really sad, to be completely honest. But I'll make the pivot into my Blaze again. I don't think he's going to Thunder Wave in that instance, and this Miltank is low, and I have it and the Sableye Poison, which is great. And I'm going to make a big play and go for an Earthquake here. I really don't feel like he's going to give me this. I have not shown anything about my set. I haven't shown if I'm a reversal set and I can't knock him out from here. But I also haven't shown if I'm like a Sky Uppercut offensive set from here. And I don't think he's going to want to give away his Miltank and his Cleric. So I actually go for an Earthquake, really predicting this thing to come in. Hariyama would be 2-hit KO'd on the switch in if I was Sky Uppercut. And then the Sableye doesn't really have a great way of breaking through my Ments. I can get into my Ments and Wish Up and just, you know, be a big nuisance. And Tentacruel gives him a little bit more offensive momentum if it is a more fast Tentacruel. Right here, we are going to catch it and just completely knock it out with that Earthquake, which is amazing for us. I'm going to go into my Salamence on the Hariyama, catch it, trying to go for an Earthquake. And I believe double out into the Starmie, as Raikou is going to come out as a Hydro Pump here and do, you know, a decent chunk of damage, which is obviously nice. Reggie Steele is next up. Gonna get crit by the Thunderbolt, which is unfortunate. And then on a Protect, we're able to catch him here and go for a big rest. And I know this is a really, really long game so far. I apologize. It's just the nature of ADV. We'll get there eventually, I promise. This next turn, I am gonna go for an Earthquake on the Miltank and then get in my Starmie right here, as a Heal Bell is going to chime, unfortunately. And right here, I am going to recover up and make a pivot onto my Salamence on this thing again, as the Raikou is going to double in. I'm kind of forced back out into my Reggie Steele, which is annoying, but not the biggest deal in the world. I do go for a Zap Cannon. I'm able to catch that thing and get it nice and paired. I wanted to kind of catch that Skarma as well, as we're going to switch into our Starmie and, you know, catch this thing going for a Heal Ball. Let's use up half of them, which is actually really, really nice for us. And then Sableye is going to come out on my Rapid Spin. I'm actually going to make a pretty ballsy play, expecting him again here to double and keep up his initiative that he has right here. I'm actually going to go for a... Oh, no, not here. Oh, bad. A little bit later. I go into my Ments right here, and I'm able to Wish Up. And I believe pass into my Starmie, which is great. I spin here on the Sableye. There we go. And then I'm going to double spin because I really do expect him to double, as he's done it twice before. Perfect. There we go. So we caught it. We got it right there. And we're able to get away the Spike, which is really, really clutch because I feel like we can pretty easily prevent the Skarmory from getting up another one. I'm going to sack off my Ments right here, as I don't have great reliable switch-ins to this thing, and I want to keep my Reggie Steele somewhat healthy. You're going to see this hidden power is going to do a ton. And I'm going to substitute right here, unfortunately. If I would have Earthquaked, I would have been in so much better of a position. Unfortunately, but he is going to switch out. I'm going to go for a Focus Punch, which at least helps me preserve a little bit of Earthquake PP, which is kind of what I'm going for and not going for Earthquake there. Just a little bit more than Focus Punch, but I'm running really low on Earthquakes, unfortunately, because that Raikou keeps protecting on me. But right here, I'm going to pivot right out of my Starmie. Get crit by Earthquake, which is unfortunate because it kind of forced me into a little bit more of a passive turn. But realistically, this thing's getting back its health anyways, and then I'm going to sack off my Nidoking, which is really, really unfortunate. To be fair, I didn't have a great way of using the Nidoking from there. I was in range of HP Ice, so I can't really like position it and threaten out this Raikou with it anymore. So I felt pretty comfortable sacking it off. But we're in a really terrible position right here, I won't lie to you. We're going to see a Protect come off. I'm actually going to go for an Earthquake, expecting this thing to want to scout for me being Endure. And I don't think Sub was the play in this matchup in particular either. So I'm actually going to go for that Earthquake. Do a lot of potential damage to this Raikou if he likes to go for like a weird HP Ice. I don't know. Regardless, this next turn I am going to go for the Endure, as I did die to a Thunderbolt. But he just sacks off the Skarmy, which is fine. I'm going to go for a Flamethrower. And this next turn I'm going to go for one more Flamethrower. Do about 22. As this Hariyama's going to go for a big Earthquake, and then I'm going to throw off a Psychic, get a crit, which is nice, and then Hydro Pump to keep this thing very, very low, sack off my Starmie, and I'm kind of putting all my eggs in one basket at this point, as I do Zap Cannon the Miltank on the switch, getting it nice and paired, and really having to kind of deal with this thing this way, but unfortunately, this is kind of where the game ends, is right here I do get Thunder Waved, and this is unfortunate because I felt like I could actually totally win this game, provided I got my Salic popped. Now that's kind of dependent on Sableye and if it had Shadow Sneak. I don't remember if it gets to this gen. But everything was in range if I could pop my Salic Berry. Unfortunately, I just wasn't given the opportunity to here. Now that I got paired, it just really wasn't going to happen. You can see me say GG in the chat, unfortunately, because I do think I just kind of lose at this point. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Omastar. We're going to fight till our dying breath. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to click Rain Dance. We're actually a Rain Dance offensive Omastar with Hydro Pump, Hidden Power Electric, Spikes, and Rain Dance. As right here, we are going to miss a Hydro Pump on a Rain Protect turn, and then the Miltank is going to come out and get sacked off, die to this Hydro Pump. Next up is going to be Sableye. This thing reveals its first Protect, so everything on the squad rocking with Protect. I'm going to spike up right here because I actually don't want to kill this thing if I do end up killing with a Hydro Pump. I would much rather the Rain end right here and then me be able to reset it right here. As we are going to see the Rain, it's going to protect this next turn, but I'm going to give as many spikes as humanly possible on those Protect turns. Rain Hydro Pump is just not enough to knock it out, unfortunately. But what I'm going to do is on this third Protect, I'm going to get up another Spike, and then the Hariyama is going to come out. And this is unfortunate because I'm just not able to outposition this, because the next turn, if I wanted to not kill this Hariyama and set up another Rain Dance, it would still knock me out. And even then, with all the Protect, I don't think there's really a position in which I can win this game. Raikou's going to come out next, and you're going to see I'm going to go down here. If I got off one more Rain Dance, actually, maybe I could have done something. I don't know, because I'm going to be able to go into Reggie Steele. At this point, it's kind of a war of attrition because I'm going to run out of moves here eventually. The game lasts a little bit longer, but eventually I just forfeit. No shade whatsoever. That's obviously how he's supposed to play that end game. He played it very smart. I just obviously, what do you call it, didn't want to sit there and waste my time as I got PP stalled because the 32 recovers, Shadow Ball, knock off, Protect, and then this Skarm potentially having, you know, not only Protect, but me running out of Zap Cannons pretty soon here. There wasn't really a way of me winning this game, unfortunately. I had to get really lucky with Zap Cannons, and even then, I had to save them for the Skarm as well, because I couldn't touch the Pokemon otherwise, unfortunately. So, that's going to be our run. I had a lot of fun this tour. Big shouts to Kaz for running it. Best of luck to Auntie in top 4. I'm going to leave a link in the description, like I said, to the Discord server if you guys want to come in, you want to watch the top 4 games and see who ends up winning and things like that. I think the 2 people that we lost to in this tour actually made top 4. So I'm actually really proud of that, being that they probably know what they're doing much more than I know what I'm doing when it comes to this ADV shit. So like, I'm actually really proud of that. The fact that the people who knocked me out are very solid at the game, very solid in the format. And it was a great change of pace. I enjoyed it a lot. I got to use my favorite Pokemon as debut generation in a really awesome, like an interesting version of, you know, the Draft League metagame that we know today, which I think is really cool. It kind of mixes that old gen Smogon side and that draft community pretty well. So, yeah, thank you to Kaz for running the tour. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you a ton. If you enjoyed, drop a like. If you're new here, drop a sub. I really do implore you. I don't do a lot of ADV content if that's what you're seeing this here for. Maybe if there's a bunch of interest, maybe I'll get into a little bit more, you know, old gen Smogon stuff because I like it a lot. But I do a lot of Draft League, which is kind of what this was, just with newer Pokemon. So maybe you'll enjoy that. I definitely implore you to check out the videos on the channel if you haven't done so already. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys again. I'll see you guys next time. Later.